We're continuing to think about the fruit of the Spirit, and this week, having considered the first love last week, this Sunday we are thinking about joy. And over the past few days, I've realised that there's something quite different about joy in this list compared to the other fruit of the Spirit. And we are mindful that this is the list which Paul sent in his letter to the churches in Galatia. And the fruit of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And these are all in some way personal qualities or attributes, or we might think of them perhaps as aspects of character, which some people have more than others. But there's something else about joy. There's something internal about joy, much more than the others on the list. Joy feels somehow more elusive, as if it's hidden away among the other more obvious, more apparent, more understandable fruit of the Spirit. Joy is intensely personal. Joy is something which is felt rather than done. When we look at the rest of the fruit of the Spirit, they all need someone else there for them to be expressed or shown. Someone to love, someone to be patient with, someone to be kind to or gentle with, somebody that annoys you so much that you have to exercise self-control. But joy is different. Joy is a powerful emotion rather than an action. Joy is felt inwardly in our very being, and it's extremely important for our well-being. An alternative translation for the Greek word that we are going to hear in English as rejoice is farewell. And not farewell as in goodbye or cheerio or see you later. Farewell in the sense of live well, live fully, live a good, well-rounded, abundant, rewarding, enriching life. Farewell. Joy is something that we can experience then even when there is no one else around. And yet joy isn't isolating. Yesterday I came across a website called The Aesthetics of Joy. And it was set up by an American woman, Ingrid Vettel-Lee, who is a designer. And she links in her website to a TED talk that she gave, which has the title of Where Joy Hides and How to Find It. It really struck a chord with me because I felt as if all week I was trying to find joy to talk about today and couldn't quite find it. So Ingrid's interest as a designer isn't about how our environment can help us or hinder us in finding joy. And she came about her interest in joy towards the end of her studies. Not sure whether she was at university or art school, but at the end of her course of study, she and the other design students had to put all their projects, all their works, all the things they had created had to be displayed on a table, and the professors would come round and look at these things and evaluate them and judge them and rate them, and presumably that would depend, on the marks you would get for your degree. So she had all her things set out, all lined up on the table, and she stood there very nervous, and the professors came to her table, and they looked, and they looked, and they looked, and she stood, and she looked at them, looking at her precious things. And then one of them finally broke the silence by saying, "Your work gives me joy." And she wasn't terribly impressed by this statement, because really she wanted her work to be something which solved actual problems. She wanted the things that she designed and created to be useful to people. But this statement sparked off for her an interest in joy, a curiosity about what joy is and what joy does for us. So she discovered that psychologists describe joy as an intense, momentary experience of positive emotion. It's about feeling good in the moment, in the right now, and it can be quite fleeting. And then she started to wonder where joy came from. So she started asking people. She asked people that she knew. She asked people she'd never met before, strangers in the street. She would introduce herself. "My name's Ingrid. It's lovely to meet you. Where do you find joy?" she would say to them. She said she felt like a detective, the Nancy Drew of joy. She would say to people, "When did you last see it? Who were you with? What colour was it? Did anyone else see it?" But fairly soon she realised that she was getting similar information about what gave all these different people joy. It was things like cherry blossom, bubbles, tree houses, hot air balloons, ice cream cones, especially ones with sprinkles on them. If she'd been asking people in Scotland, I am very sure that we would have mentioned blue skies as something which gives us joy, but not too hot. Don't want to get carried away with ourselves. So Ingrid found a renewed hope that in this very divided, this very polarized world of ours, that what we do have in common are those aspects of the physical world, our surroundings, which give us joy. Who doesn't stop to admire a rainbow? Now, she was approaching this understanding of joy from the perspective of as a designer who creates things for people to use, not as a theologian, not from a faith perspective. Her aim was a better understanding of joy so that our daily interactions with the buildings we spend time in, the objects that we use, can bring us joy. And experiencing joy in our daily lives leads us to having healthier lives and happier lives. And there's a practical application to this. It's not just some abstract thought. Designs for schools and hospitals and nursing homes, all these different places in which we spend time, if they're well designed and they're designed to bring us joy, that lifts our spirits. So much better for us, for our well-being, letting us fare well. Her interest was focused very much on the physical sources of joy. What things look like. She put together, I suppose, kind of picture boards. She would create them on her computer, and she had all these images of the things that people said give them joy. And looking at them, she could see patterns. Key to these things were their shapes, lots of colour, lots of circles, and abundance. That was also very important. So colour, circles, and abundance. And she illustrated this in her talk by having a slide which showed one small pink circle, just the one, against a large white background on the screen. And she pointed at the small pink circle and she said, "That is a confetto." Think. Confetto is the singular of confetti. How miserable and joyless is a confetto? But here's where you get the joy in the abundance. An abundance of confetti, an abundance of small, colourful circles of paper. What celebration, what joy, what exuberance there is in confetti. When she mentioned circles, she said it's thought that we have an instinctive aversion and dislike of angular, pointy, jaggy things, because in nature they very often represent or are dangerous to us. And my thoughts turn to that crown of thorns placed on the head of Jesus. Jaggy thorns, a jaggy crown, replaced in Christian art and illustrations by a beautifully rounded and illuminated halo. Light as well is a source of joy. And she concluded her TED talk by saying that the drive towards joy is the drive towards life. So just think how blessed we are to have our joy in the Lord. To have our joy as Christians not only in the wonders of God's created world, to have our joy not only in the works of skilled designers who bring their God-given gifts and talents into their work, into their understanding of how objects and places can bring joy, but how blessed we are to have our joy in the one who has broken the bonds of death and promises to us the hope of eternal life. Joy available to us not in wee snatched fleeting moments, lovely as they are, but joy available to us in every moment as God holds out his hand to us and invites us to take it, and he will walk with us through life. Joy in all our living, our working, our playing, joy in our singing, our praising, our worshipping, our serving, joy in all of our being in the Lord. And we're not to keep that joy inward, closed in for ourselves. We're not simply to treasure this joy in our own hearts, but we are to let this gift of the Spirit be known and be shown. We all individually know that inward feeling of joy, and we are called to express it outwardly, to share it. And as we'll see in our service this morning, St. Paul urges us, commands us, not once, but twice, to rejoice, to make our joy known, to proclaim it to this world. And we are going to join now in singing our joy. In hymn number 184, Sing to the Lord a Joyful Song.